Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for another video. Today I'm populating my weekly reset checklist. I started setting this page up as part of my 2021 bullet journal setup, and quite a few people expressed an interest in seeing it all filled in. I did actually try making a prompt list for this at the start of 2020, though that one I called my weekly review tasks, and it was certainly more review based than this one is. But I'm hoping that this prompt list I've set up for 2021 is going to be a little bit more helpful in actually getting me prepared for the week ahead. For those of you who don't know what a weekly reset is, it's essentially a list of tasks that you do at a certain point in each week to get yourself prepared for the week coming. So I think for most people it's usually on a Sunday, but really this could be at any point in your week depending on how it fits into your schedule. Although my initial one from 2020 was inspired by a bunch of different sources that I found on the internet, the one that I'm setting up today is very much inspired by the awesome YouTuber Michelle B, who does a lot of great content on things like personal development, goal setting, that kind of stuff. In terms of the tasks that go on this, they're all intended to give you that kind of fresh, clean slate feeling. Get yourself clear and focused on what you need and want to get done. Before we dive into talking about what that involves, first we're going to have a look at the questions that were left on last week's plan with me. Our first question came from Jennifer, who asked, have you ever thought of doing any mixed media spreads, like collaging with pictures, painting, stenciling type things on one weekly spread? I haven't really thought about it, mostly because most of the things you've just mentioned are not my forte, but I'm not opposed to it. I think I'd certainly have to go and look up some inspiration for those kind of things before I tried it myself. Otherwise, I think it would probably end up being a bit of a hot mess, which also isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe I'll do something like that for a challenge video. Raven's Tailfeather asked, do your fellow teachers also use a bullet journal? I haven't found anybody at my school that does. Most people at my school just prefer to use the kind of teacher planner that's assigned to them. But I do know of other teachers who do bullet journal, mainly because of the Teachers Who Bullet Journal Facebook group. My friend Rachel has dabbled with bullet journaling. She's an early childhood teacher, but outside of that, nobody I personally know. Our next question came from Jordan, who asked, have you ever tried bullet journaling online, like on an iPad? I haven't done any iPad journaling before. I have tried digital planning before, so for instance using stuff like Notion. But the more typical styles of digital bullet journaling you see, like the ones in the digital bullet journaling Facebook groups, I haven't tried that myself. I did find that something I really missed from using my digital systems was actually writing with pen and paper, so I'm not too sure how much I'd gel with digital bullet journaling. Though I will say, some people make very pretty digital bullet journals, and there's certainly no bleed through in a digital bullet journal. Courtney asked, I'd be interested in hearing what kind of alternative metal you listen to, like what kind of bands and stuff. Now, I'll preface this by saying I'm really bad with genres, so I didn't even really know what alternative metal was, but from doing a quick Google search, I'm pretty sure that the likely culprits for that being on my Spotify list were probably Breaking Benjamin and Linkin Park, because I do listen to both of those bands quite a lot. As always, thank you to everybody who left a question in last week's video. If you have a question that you want answered in next week's video, please do leave it in the comments below. Now, having a closer look at the tasks that I have as part of this checklist, you can see that it's broken down into 5 different sections. And here I'm writing shortened versions of my prompts. The first of these sections is my school pre-reset list, and the first task of this is tidying my work desk. So this just involves putting away any papers or any clutter that's accumulated so that I can get into the mindset of doing a reset. After this, I have my work inbox 0, which is a fancy way of saying I'm trying to get rid of all unnecessary emails in my inbox and turn the ones that I need to action into to-do list items. This also would include putting any reference materials into their appropriate folders. The next item is to review my school calendar and my term dates list, and transfer any of the tasks or calendar events in there into the spaces that I use more regularly. So places like my master to-do list and my digital calendar. I then do a quick tidy up of my school computer by going through the things on my desktop, things in the downloads folder, and either deleting or storing them. Then I'd go through my lesson schedule for the next week, and I'd make sure to add any of the materials that I need to prepare, anything else that I need to do, onto my task list. I'll use the tasks that are generated from that to assign them to my non-contact time, or non-teaching periods, for the week coming. And then to make sure that I'm ready to go on Monday morning, I'm going to put my materials for my first teaching period into my school bag. Ideally, all of the items on that list would happen on a Friday afternoon after school is finished. Then we have my home pre-reset list, so things that I want to do before actually getting into my reset. So much the same, this involves things like tidying up my home desk, bringing my home inbox to 0, reviewing the items on my desktop and in my downloads folder and storing or deleting those. Then I have the task of compiling any papers or receipts. Really, this is mainly just receipts. I don't usually keep a lot of paper clutter around, but having those receipts all in one place is really helpful when it comes to doing my budgeting. The next step is to update any of my bullet journal trackers, so these are usually the more long-term ones rather than my daily habit tracker. And then my final task for this one is to revisit my life notes. I don't really have a lot of life notes yet, but this is essentially a catch-all place for any kind of little life lessons that I learn and stuff like that. The sections and prompts from here on out are based on the weekly reset in David Allen's book Getting Things Done, but I've renamed these sections and changed the tasks to better suit my needs. So the next section is called Clarity, based on the Get Clear section from David Allen, and this section is all about making my master to-do list. So the first task on this is to do a monthly or quarterly reset if appropriate, and then the next step is to go through my to-do list and my projects list and delete any completed or irrelevant tasks. Next, I'll be getting out my journal and any other apps so that I can convert the notes that are in this into thoughts and musings, to-do tasks, and projects. What I then do is turn my thoughts and musings into to-do tasks or projects, or if there's nothing that can be done about them just yet, they'll just stay on that thoughts and musings page. I then want to review my calendar for the last 2 weeks and the upcoming 2 weeks, making sure that any of my events are in there, of course, but then using those events to help me generate any other tasks that I need to do to put on that to-do list. Then we get to the brain dump section. Where I can just put in any other tasks or projects that I need into those relevant lists. It also says here that I'd be using a trigger list to help, and this is essentially just a list of things that can help prompt me when it comes to thinking of the stuff that I need to get done. So it gives me a list of places to look at, things I might need to tidy, stuff that I might need to remember to pick up, that kind of stuff. Then the last step of this section is to clarify and label my tasks with tags. So things like contexts. Is this a home task? Is this a school task? Is it a computer task? Also a priority, so if it's urgent or not, if it has due dates, and other stuff like that. After this I have the focus section, which is all about selecting the things that are the most important for the week ahead. So of course the main part of this is selecting my tasks by considering whether the task actually needs to be done, whether it needs to be done by me, and whether it needs to be done this week. In this section I also have a step of confirming any plans that I have for the week coming. So checking in with Rachel to make sure Boudreaux Wednesday's happening. Making sure that if I have any appointments, I've got a confirmation of those. That kind of stuff. The final section that I have for my weekly reset is the stretch section. So this is putting in the fun things and putting in the personal development things. I want to start this section with a quick reflection of the week that was, by considering any successes or challenges that I had, and any ways that I could improve on the week. I then want to review my Someday Maybe and 101 Things lists, just to see if there are any of the things on that list that I can schedule into the weeks coming. Following this, if there are any in particular that I find or that I want to do, I then want to take a moment to reach out to anybody necessary and schedule in those plans. What I then do is open up my goal planner to review my goal action plans and tick off any of the tasks I've completed, and then also select the next action steps that I want to work on. The last step of my weekly reset would be to use all of the information that I've collected to populate my weekly dashboard in my journal. Under this, as you can see, I've just got some other ideas of tasks that I might want to do weekly. I know that sounds like a lot, and yes, it is probably kind of ambitious. What I'm hoping to do to make it a little easier myself is set some pretty strict time limits on how long I spend on each of those tasks, especially the more open-ended ones like brain dumping and things like that. What I also want to do is make an abridged version of this list for when I'm feeling really pinched for time. So selecting out the things that have the most impact or are the most important, and seeing how I can make a simplified version for myself, just if I ever need it. Alrighty team, so as you can see, I have a space where I've stated my purpose for the reset process, a space for things to do at school and at home before I start the bulk of the reset, and then the 3 stages, which are clarify, focus, and stretch. As I mentioned before, these are kind of an abridged version of my actual prompts. I have the full descriptions for all of these over on my Notion, but I think that having it as a reference in my journal is still going to be really helpful. Next week I'm going to be writing my monthly reset list, so make sure that you don't miss that one next Thursday. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video though team. If you did, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and if you wanted to see more from me, feel free to check out one of my other videos. Until next time, bye!